Konnichiwa. This is the Shogunstein, and this is a colorblind board game perspective of Apiary. Now, I know AP Bio, I know AP US History, AP World. I'm not sure what class Apiary is, but there's a B team to it. Bees in space. Wasn't it on the Muppets? Bees in space. I think I had a lunchbox back at Summit Lane from the Bees in Space. We picked up the game, barely played at a used game swap here in Arizona, in Mesa at the Silver Key Lounge, where we get a lot of our games used or gently played once or twice. Great place to buy games. Makes you wonder why you buy new games sometimes. But this is not a review of the game itself. We're still learning the rules. This is a look at some of the colorblind issues that may come up if you're a colorblind player. If you're not colorblind, you're not even going to notice these things. But those of us that are colorblind, colors in games can be a challenge. My colorblindness is red, green, brown, and blue, purple. Other people have other color blindness. Generally, Stonemaier Games, who puts this game out. This game is, I think it's about a year old. It's one of those games in between the umpteenth edition to Scythe, or, you got the Wingspan and Dragonspan and Fishspan. So this was a game that came out, I think, in between somewhere the Dragonspan and the Fishspan. And again, it's got the theme of bees in space. But let's take a look at the colorblind issues that may or may not come up. Generally, Stonemaier does a good job of making games colorblind accessible. Generally, they use a lot of icons and symbols to make it easier for colorblind players. I think the best example is the Red Storm Rising game, which had a lot of factions, lots of different colors, but yet that game was very colorblind friendly. I don't know how they did it with all those colors in the Red Storm Rising, but they did a great job. So let's take a look at some of the issues or non-issues in Apiary. I'm not really sure how to say it. Apiary. Well, Apiary. Again, I prefer APUS, but okay, we got the Apiary. What is he, the sheriff out here in Arizona? Sheriff Apiary. Anyway, let's take a look at the colorblind issues or non-issues. First of all, the board. I didn't see any colorblind issues. Very well laid out. And again, the icons, very clear. Very good iconography. Again, you don't have to rely on the color. Also, you got the different shapes. That's also important too, to have the right colors, but have shapes. So you can look at the resources. Here you have two same color, but they have different shapes. Here, again, clearly different shape from here, clearly the water. So on the resources, they did a nice job between the pollen and the fiber, which I need a little more of in my diet. You gotta get some of the Metamucil. So you got your fiber, you got your pollen, you got your wax and your honey and your water. So all that is fine. Again, different colors, different shapes, well done. Some of the hexes that some of the tokens that are going to go out onto the game, very again, these colors are kind of close, but you have a clearly different symbol, so that makes up for it. So again, you have four different that are going to go over here in the game. They're going to go on this part of the board, and again, you got very clear different symbols. So even if you are having trouble with some of these colors, as some of these colors are fairly close on this side, they have the symbol to make it a little easier for you. Had they not had that symbol on that side, then it could be a little more problematic. But they did a good job. Again, I guess these are called like farm tiles or carving tiles, recruit tiles, development tiles. So as you got your tiles, and again, you got a clear symbol to make it distinguishable. These colors are close, but you don't have to rely on the colors. Where some of the issues to me as a colorblind player are going to be more on the hibernation tokens, which correspond with the player tokens. So again, this is, I guess, a standard issue edition of the game. I don't know if there's a deluxe deluxe edition that maybe has fancier parts. Usually with a Stonemaier game, there's a lot of nice fancy upgrades. But here with the hibernation, tiles or hibernation tokens and player cubes, these are the different 5 colors you can play with. And the cubes, they're all right. The cube colors are, at least it's not red, green, brown. They're a little close, but overall I think it would be manageable. These 2 colors are kind of close, and then this are kind of close. And I can't tell if this is a yellow or green. So again, as a colorblind player, I have no idea what color this is. This is some sort of blue. I have no idea what color this is. These 2, again, no clue. But I can at least tell the difference between the colors, but especially over here, they're a little close. On the hibernation tokens, very difficult to tell. Okay, so I'm going to imagine that goes there. And this one maybe goes here. Other than those 2, very difficult for me to tell these apart. And maybe there's something printed on it that I'm not seeing. But just in general, looking at these, it's very difficult for me to tell these apart and which ones match which player tokens. So here is, I think, maybe the weak link in the game for a colorblind player. Now again, if you're colorblind and you're playing with a low player count, it might not be an issue. So maybe if I was playing, 2 players, we usually play a lot of 2-player games here. This might be a little easier. Maybe that one's that. I think that one might be it. Again, it's kind of hard to tell. But if I was going to play 2 players or solo, I would stick to maybe these 2 colors. These are kind of close. And again, this is just to me where they just kind of drop the ball a little bit on the colorblind issues. So again, with any game company, again, there's always so much money you have to develop a game, always so many, demo copies you can put out there. But you might want to send a copy to a colorblind player, or if you have a friend or someone in your play group that's colorblind, and ask. Because if you're not colorblind, you would have no idea. When I do the colorblind test around people that are not colorblind, they like, oh, of course I can see that number. And I don't see it. So really, if you're a developer of a game, you really might want to get a colorblind person in there just to see how things play out. Because one of those things, again, if you're not colorblind, you would never know. But again, overall on the board, the icons are good. The tiles, again, be able to tell apart your development, your recruit, your carving, your farm tiles is easy because they did a nice job with the symbols. Again, symbols, the different colors and the shapes here good. It's the cubes and the hibernation that it's a little, as the kids would say, sus. So that's a look at Apiary, a bees in space game from a colorblind perspective. For the most part, seems colorblind friendly. I would just be careful over here. And then again, if you're doing a lower play count, maybe use the 2 colors that, depending on your colorblindness. So those are, that's a look at Apiary from a colorblind board game perspective. This is the Shogunstein out.